Hey guys, so I have a new video and it's on what George Lucas might have done with the original trilogy, the prequels and the sequels. So this thumbnail probably looks really confusing, well, for the watchers of Rebels, but I'll explain it to you in the end. Let's just start off with the original trilogy. It's the trilogy that made everyone go Star Wars crazy, right? So, the ideas for the original trilogy are vastly different from what actually happened, and I actually think some of these ideas are better. So, we're going to have a look at two things here. The second thing we look at, well, rather the first that I'll mention, will be, I don't really have a lot of reference material on it, and I'm getting the book of it soon, so I'll be able to do another video on that. So we'll be looking at The Revenge of the Jedi, which was the original name for Return of the Jedi, and The Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Now, The Splinter of the Mind's Eye is what I'm going to talk about first. So, it takes place around the time of Empire Strikes Back, and Luke and Leia are searching for a Kyber crystal. And it's not the type of Kyber crystal we know. It's a Kaibar crystal. And it's a crystal that allows the wearer or bearer of said crystal to use the Force more potently. Now, The Revenge of the Jedi was the original name for Return of the Jedi, and there's a book called The Making of Return of the Jedi with several ideas on what could have happened. So, Revenge of the Jedi, that title was scrapped because, Jedi, they don't seek revenge. Let's talk about it first. So, Vader and an admiral go to the Emperor's throne room on the capital of the Empire, which we now know as Coruscant, but at the time was referred to as Had Abaddon. It had one moon, which had luscious life, like Endor. It was the original Endor, actually, and the Emperor told Vader when they landed that that moon would be colonized for more space for the inhabitants of Had Abaddon, so they could move there, Now, Vader goes to the Emperor. The Emperor says, "You've been distracted by seeking Luke Skywalker. Stop looking for him." Vader has to accept. He can't decline because, Palpatine will kill him. And so the Emperor tells Vader to leave and tells the Admiral to watch Vader closely, which he does. Now, actually I forgot to mention though, there was a scene where the Force ghosts attack the Emperor, much like in Episode 9. So that's where I think the idea of the Force ghosts and, I'm all the Sith and I'm all the Jedi came from. So, there was a duel between Luke and Vader and Palpatine, much like in the original, the release that we got. But in several drafts there was this duel. It has to be. There's always a duel between Vader. Now, then, in another draft, and this was an idea that George Lucas was actually going to go with, Vader was killed by Luke, and Luke cut off his head, shaking out his head from the helmet, and puts on the helmet and says, "Now I am Vader," which was actually foreshadowed in this scene in the Force Caves of Dagobah. Now, this idea would have completely changed Star Wars, I think. Especially the sequels. I would have really liked it, to be honest. Now, let's actually have a look at the prequels. I like the prequels a lot, actually. Bar Episode 1, the only part of Episode 1 I really like is, Duel of the Fates. Episode 2, quite good. Episode 3 is excellent. In fact, next week I'll be doing a video on Darth Vader. So, there was an interview between Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas in, I think, the 80s, probably 1980. No, it would have been a bit later because he was talking about, at the time, Revenge of the Jedi. Now, I think actually there's been a nod to Lawrence Kasdan, I've actually played it a few weeks ago now, the Force Unleashed Kasdan Paratus fight on Roxas Prime, sort of nice little Easter egg there. But so he talks about the original ideas for the prequel trilogy in this interview. So he talks about how Anakin became great pals with the Emperor, who at the time no one really thought was that bad, because he was an elected official, you know? And then when he got loads of power, he decided to go a bit imperial. And so Lawrence asks him, was he a Jedi? No, he was a politician. Now at the time, this corrupt leader was called Richard M. Nixon, who later became Palpatine. So that's, I don't know, like just giving Richard Nixon a bit of an L there. But then Anakin is sucked into the dark side, and he cuts down Jedi. Not all at the time like we saw in Order 66, but he kills them. You know, sort of like guerrilla warfare. He picks one target, kills that target. And he does this because the Jedi turned their back on him. Which sort of makes us think like, I don't know, murder mystery Star Wars, which I think would have been quite cool. Now, Mrs. Skywalker, who later became Padme, noticed something was wrong with Anakin and confides with Ben, Anakin's mentor. Ben, or Obi-Wan, goes to find Anakin and talk to him, and then has to fight him. And then he has to throw Anakin's body into a volcano. Now, he goes back to Padme and he explains to her that Anakin is now the bad guy, and Padme just had the twins that we know, Luke and Leia, and they have to go into hiding. So Obi-Wan brings the twin called Luke to Tatooine, and then Padme, who is still alive, brings Leia to Alderaan. Now on Alderaan, Padme lives until I think it was a heart attack, something sudden. She had a sudden cause of death. Unlike the whole, oh no, I'm sad kind of vibe we got in Revenge of the Sith. And that's how Leia actually tells Luke, oh no, I know my real mother, she died when I was young. You know, the story ties in. Now, let's talk about the sequels. Now, I don't know about you, but the sequels were kind of disappointing. When I first saw them in cinemas, I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. But when I got more and more into Star Wars, I was like, yeah, no. One of the things I don't like is, you know, it's a constant theme of planet-killing weapons. Can you just come up with something better? Like, I don't know, just an all-out war. What it's missing. I saw a TikTok of this podcaster saying what the sequels were missing were a new version of the Clone Wars, you know? Like, all-out wars. That would have been class. Now, one way this could have gone, and it will explain the thumbnail of this video, is that Luke trained Leia, like we see in Rise of Skywalker. Why is it that all the last films of the trilogies have the letter R at the start of its name? But Luke trains Leia, and then Leia becomes, you know, an extremely powerful Jedi, so both of them are the chosen ones. And then the main antagonist, so the Empire is pretty much gone, there's shattered remnants of it. But the main antagonists are Darth Maul, who survived, and Darth Talon, who, well, this idea was completely scrapped because Darth Talon was in the Old Republic, and I'm pretty sure she was killed by Arkin and Thexan, who were the Knights of the Fallen Empire, or Eternal Empire, something like that, can't remember. But that's what would have happened. Now, I know, but Darth Maul was killed in episode 1. Please watch the Clone Wars. You'll be extremely surprised with what happens in the Clone Wars. I probably spoiled a bit for you there. Also, Darth Maul does eventually die after the events of Solo. In Rebels, in fact. Now, another way this could have gone... Actually, no, this would have been called the Path of the Wills, I think. Or maybe that's another thing I'm thinking of. I know almost nothing behind the Path of the Wills, and I know this photo is terrible. But when it's small, it looks much better. When it's further away from your eyes, it looks better. Another way this thing could have gone, the sequels, was following the Jedi Academy trilogy. I have all 3 of these books and I absolutely love them. So as the name suggests, there's been a Jedi search, so Luke is looking for more Jedi. The Dark Apprentice, that one is the rise of Darth Caedus, who is the original Kylo Ren. Then the Champions of the Force, I don't think I should actually spoil the ending of it. I really like the ending of Champions of the Force. I actually think this should have been the original sequels, but if they copy a book, it'd be a bit too predictable. I would just read the book. But this does lead into the Yuuzhan Vong, which would have been quite cool if we had 2 sequel trilogies. So like this and then the Yuuzhan Vong. That would have been perfect. Well guys, that's all for today. I hope you really enjoyed that video. Next week I'll be dropping a video on the tragedy of Darth Vader. In the meantime, I'll post a little sneak peek of that. Probably around Wednesday. I won't actually have a proper date for it, but it will be before it actually happens. Well guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.